We are less than a month before we get the first official tease trailer for Avengers Doomsday, aka Avengers 5. It's rumoredly coming out a week before Avatar 3 Fire and Ash, so it's going to be absolutely insane. Are we going to see Chris Evans? Are we going to see Tobey Maguire? Are we going to see Hugh Jackman? Are we going to see Warstu in this trailer? I don't know what we're going to see because this trailer will come out 1 year before the movie comes out. So, all the leaks, rumors, and news are all pointing to one character, one actor who is one of the OG Avengers in the MCU, who hasn't even been confirmed to be in the movie. And I don't think they should confirm him. But at the same time, if they do put Chris Evans, regardless to which version of him we're getting, in the first trailer, which is most likely going to be a minute to a minute and a half long. Predominantly, it's going to be a teaser trailer. The internet would erupt if they officially confirm Chris Evans in the movie, but then it will confirm that the rumors are true. So they are setting up Avengers Doomsday. Whether this was the initial plan to almost be a sequel to Avengers Endgame, in a way. And I guess it could be seen as Civil War 2, are you going to be Team Chris Evans or Team RDJ, Dr. Doom? Because it seems like, I don't know if this was the original plan, but it is good they've got Michael Waldron working back on it because he was behind setting up the multiverse. He was behind Loki Season 1, Loki Season 2, and he was writing Kang's Dynasty, so he has a good kind of lore knowledge of what was going to happen. Are they shifting from one storyline in Kang's Dynasty to essentially making it Doom's Dynasty? Who knows? But it is interesting because if we go back to the end of Avengers Endgame, when it was said by Bruce Banner, I think, you have to return the stones at the exact moment you got them. And he says, or you're going to open up a branch reality of nasty alternate realities. And this is essentially the storyline for the movie. Or at least we're led to believe. So, when Steve went back in time, he knew the ramifications. So, Steve, quite a horrible guy when you think about it. He knew the ramifications. He knew he could destroy and change people's lives just by staying with Peggy and having children, so on and so forth. We've all seen the set they made just outside of London, the Luke Cage set that literally looked like Peggy Carter's house. And predominantly, that's apparently the whole plot of the movie. Is Dr. Doom is angry, is pissed, essentially, at Steve Rogers. But I think that's a massive plot hole, because sure, that is a big canon event, if you like. But really blaming everything that went wrong just on Steve Rogers, I don't know if Marvel would actually do that. So, yo, what is good, YouTube? Warstu here. If you are new around here, make sure to subscribe to never miss any of the Marvel, DC, Kaiju, Monsterverse, pop culture based content that I try to deliver on a daily basis with the subscribe channel. Turn notifications on and let me know. Do you really think this is the way they're going to go with Avengers Doomsday? It's very clever and could be very clever and very easy to market this movie if you've got Chris Evans, which everybody wants back because he is the hero. He is the real Cap going against RDJ, Dr. Doom. So very interesting. So check us out on Instagram at Warstu. Check us out TikTok Warstu. Right, let's get into today's video. So this is coming courtesy of My Time to Shine. Hello. The lad had this to say. I don't know why everyone says that this account is a female. It's a guy. Clearly, by the way, they're right. If I understood it correctly, Victor Von Doom's wife and son were killed in an accident. So this information came out recently from an alleged leak, that the reason why Dr. Doom took Franklin at the end of the movie is because in his reality that was destroyed because of Steve and others, we can't just put the blame on Steve, although they probably will from a narrative standpoint, because most people will have seen Endgame, is his universe had an incursion, everything was destroyed. That's why he's going to be Darth Vader, and his body's destroyed because of the Steve, because of the incursion. He had a family, he had Sue, he had Franklin. And if we look at the concept art for Secret Wars, he stood there with Stephen Strange, he stood there with Sue, and he stood there with Franklin. So it goes on to say Victor Von Doom's wife and son were killed in an accident. And Victor himself was injured and his body damaged. Now, you could just say this is based on all the information that's going around. He traced the cause of the accident to Steve going back in time, and now he's going after him to avenge his family. Are you Team Steve or are you Team Doom? Now, they need to make him sympathetic. They need to make you care about what happened to Doom. Doom's not going to be the villain. Steve Rogers is Nomad, because he's given up the Captain America title, so technically he's Nomad, like a rogue Captain America, if you like. So Steve Rogers is actually the villain here, and not Doctor Doom. Now, this post got 200,000 views, and most comments are actually with Doctor Doom, to be honest, and most people saying, yo, Civil War 2 could be interesting. So it wants us to believe that a branch timeline created when Steve went back in time is the 1960s so advanced in the Fantastic Four universe because it's just a branch because of Steve. There's lots of explanations. You could also say Steve staying in the past with Peggy caused an incursion that destroyed Doom's universe. In reality, Sue Storm was Doom's wife. Franklin Richards was his son. When the incursion killed them, Doom traced it back to Steve. So now Doom is hunting Steve Rogers across the multiverse, building a battle world to rewrite reality and restore the family he lost. Now, I made a video, I think, a week or two ago about this, which is interesting because if you compare him to Thanos, who destroyed half the universe, Doom is actually going to destroy the whole universe and then rewrite the universe. It is interesting. There's lots of takes on this. Are you Team Steve or are you Team Doom? I'd have to say I'm actually Team Doctor Doom because Captain America and all the other heroes, because of the TVA, were aware of exactly what they were doing, and living in alternate reality was essentially a lie. And they knew what they were doing, but they didn't actually know the real ramifications. Because unless you're Loki or people that worked for the TVA, and hence why they kept branching the realities, you wouldn't really know all this information. But then it comes back to He Who Remains, who had a timeline and basically was keeping everything in check. And when He Who Remains was destroyed, Loki set everything free. And that's potentially how they could bring in, the X-Men, they can't remember everything. And Doom had remembered all his memories from what really happened when Loki set everything free. So it's interesting on that sense, because it's so easy to make this movie very understandable. You need to feel sympathetic for the villain. Almost like Thanos snapping half the universe to restore the balance. Now, Thanos was actually right, but Doom wants to destroy everything, essentially because his world was destroyed by Steve. But can we actually put the whole blame just on Steve? I think that's a bit unfair, because there were a lot of incursions that happened. The whole No Way Home spell. There's what Doctor Strange did in Multiverse of Madness. There is so much stuff that could, would, should have caused the incursion and caused his reality to be destroyed. But to trace it back to Steve is a very clever, but also a very lazy way of making you nostalgia bait you into a scenario just like Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, I think this could be a very cool story, but we can understand why Doom has a vendetta against the multiverse. But are they trying to say that Steve Rogers is the multiverse? It's very interesting. And this Steve Rogers storyline keeps coming up, and it does make sense. So that essentially is the premise of the whole movie, of where it's going to start. The movie will start with Doomsday. Doomsday potentially could be the day where Battle War is created. It also could be the day where we're going to see his backstory of, we could see a flashback to Endgame of what really happened. We don't know what really happened. We had old man Steve Rogers, and we had Steve living with Peggy, having children, so on and so forth. There is so much cool. I posted it on my Twitter. No, actually, I posted it on my Instagram. There's so much cool AI stuff going around of Doom going to Steve and literally telling him. But surely Doom could go back in time to stop all this from ever happening. There's so many parallel ways they could actually go about this storyline, realistically. So Daniela RPK came out and said the weirdest thing ever. She hears The CGI and effects, well, actually, let's paraphrase. I've heard Doomsday looks way better visually than the Russo other movies. Eyes. Okay, what are you trying to say? You're trying to... bunch of scoopers are making out they've already watched the trailer, which is kind of hilarious because none of them really have sources. But let's just read it like it's real. Like, you want to be independent. Infinity War never looked bad. Endgame never looked bad. Civil War never looked bad. So what is Daniela actually inferring to? I mean, it could look better, but I don't think there was anything wrong with the VFX in any of their movies. Marvel, with the cinematography, they've got a lot longer to do the VFX. The movie doesn't come out till next year, Christmas. So they've got till November next year, essentially. And I guess you could say based off the post-credits, I could agree with them. We've had the Thunderbolts post-credit. We've had the Fantastic Four post-credit. They were both fine. I've never really had an issue with the post-credit scenes. The Russos did, because essentially they had to kind of pivot from the Kang storyline. But is it just a swapping Kang for Doom? Because we've also heard, and we did a video on it, that we're getting like a Doom's dynasty, like a Doom parliament, like a Council of the Doom, taking out the Council of Kangs and the Council of Reeds. It would be and blow your mind. There's a lot of cool stuff in this movie, but the whole premise of getting Steve Rogers to be a co-main star without even confirming he's in the movie is wild, because we all know he's in the movie. He was on the red carpet with the Steve Rogers hair, with the shaven look, with the physique, with the Captain America physique. But I really hope they don't confirm he's in the movie. But then at the same time, if we get him in the first trailer, that will pop, because it's coming to YouTube before it actually goes to the Avatar 3. But you want to watch it in IMAX. So it's a cool day either way when we get to see his trailer. Let me know your comments down below, lads. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter, WarstuG. Follow us on Instagram at Warstu. Follow us on TikTok, WWarstu. And I will catch you in another video very soon. Catch ya later. Okay. Bye.